There exists a setup in the background that does suggest that there is a slightly over 61% probability that Bitcoin could very well be retesting or slightly making new all-time highs in early July. That'll be the focus of today's video as we go back to the phase view right here. I do want to make a couple of announcements before we get into this one. First and foremost, I haven't been talking about it like in a long time, but the Discord link is in the description below. It's 100% free to join. You can hang out and talk some shit with the guys. And then also, if you're in the Jewel, or if you have the systematic trading and quantitative analysis program, we've just extended a free offer to you for 1 month free of the Krown Quant automation service. If you're in the Jewel, check the Discord for the code. If you're in the systematic trading and quantitative analysis program, check the end of the teachable page there for that particular code. And we're just going to jump right into the content of the day and starting off right over here with everyone's most hated setup, which is a moon setup, which I know sounds fucking crazy. It's highly provocative for whatever reason. But at the end of the day, we can see that this particular setup, which is actually about to fire off, I believe tonight or maybe tomorrow. It is the summer solstice tonight, so perhaps that's an important date. I don't know. But we do see that there is, well, a slightly higher probability of a nice tradable move. In this case would be to the upside. Now I do want to follow up on, of course, the last setup that we looked at for this particular indication, which was back on over here. And you can see that Bitcoin, or sorry, not Bitcoin, but the automation service went into a short at 70,800 basically. And it's going to close later tonight. So just using that as a very simplistic means of, of using this edge, I guess, if you can call it that. It has worked out yet again, which is really, I mean, it's quite bizarre to me, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, statistics are statistics. There are lies, damn lies in statistics, as the saying goes. And I'd rather go with statistics at the end of the day. Anyways, the reason why I bring this one up again is because it is going to fire off tonight. This particular study was done only on all days except for Monday and Thursday, because those were the worst days for this particular setup. So we did omit those. But with that in mind, if we blow up this over here, the performance summary does suggest that the winning trade on average, assuming that it does win, which is a big ask right now, is about 14.5%, just above 14.5%. And on the other side, the average losing trade is just above 6.5%. Both of these mean a lot in terms of price action. Why do I say that? Because they're going to play into some major pivots basically from here. For one, let's assume that Bitcoin, closes today out or closes this week out somewhere around where it's currently at right now, 65,000 bucks. 14.5% to the upside would put Bitcoin on ever so slightly new highs, basically, or probably retesting prior all-time highs. By the same token, to the downside, which there is, nearly a 40% probability that it does fail, a 6.5% move to the downside would put Bitcoin basically down around about 61,000 bucks. So why is this important? Because it gives us two major areas to be looking for in the next couple weeks once this does fire off. And the next couple weeks brings us into basically the first week of July. So that is why I do say that Bitcoin could either be making new all-time highs in early July, or we do see what is probably going to be the next higher low. At least that's what I'd be looking for, which would be down around about 61, maybe $62,000-ish dollars. Why do I say that number specifically? Well, because not only does it line up with that setup, but if we go over here to our 5-day HPDR, we can see that the 38.2 level is where 62,000 bucks. So as of right now, if Bitcoin were to make a move down around there, I'd be looking at that as a major opportunity. I do think personally, it's more likely that this setup will fail. This moon setup over here will fail. I mean, you can see it's literally worked out every fucking time since basically summer of last year, where it did actually print 2 losses in a row. Since then, we've seen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 workout consecutively, with a 61% probability. I don't think it's like that crazy to maybe be saying that this one's probably setting up for a little bit more of a loss. But if it does have a loss, then those two numbers kind of aligning around each other between about $61,000 to $62,000 very likely is going to be, one, a target for this move, and then two, that would still be a higher low as far as what we're looking at, because the current low, of course, is 56,500 bucks. So that would still be long term a higher low, and likely the next major opportunity, if I had to guess. It wouldn't be all that crazy to see price action do something like, or well, maybe something like this is, that's also not that crazy to be fair, but something like this where, you know, it drops down to about 61, 62, bounces back up, sets in another higher low, and then actually takes off. And, you know, that would probably take us into the end of summer, like August, September. In fact, that's probably what we're looking at. I would assume. And you can see that these, you know, all these dates do seem to align with with the Fibonacci time extension over here. You can see that these are on so far pivots. So with that in mind and going over here, I do want to now get into the statistics, price statistics, and we can see that Thursday once again worked out in the sense that Bitcoin did trade up towards the upper boundary. We did see a high about 2% away from yesterday's open, a little bit above there, but once again giving a little, you know, giving a nice scalp. Wouldn't have blindly just said that it was going to come all the way back down to basically the open, but ultimately, you know, this has been the case pretty much literally every day. There's been an opportunity like this since the 21st of May. So I do want to say that if you do have this indicator, the historical price action statistics indicator, which you can find in the link description below, you know, these when it works, it fucking works. And that is certainly one way to use it. Anyways, for today, Friday does have a slightly higher probability to close negatively than positively. And I do believe that if Bitcoin is going to see the downside of this setup over here emerge, which, you know, would imply 61 to 62,000 bucks, we probably do see Bitcoin, closed today down, you know, Friday, like decently down. In this case, we can see that the average negative returns and positive returns are actually one and the same at just over 2.25. So 2.25 to the downside would actually put Bitcoin on new weekly lows. It would put Bitcoin about 63,500 bucks. You know, if we're going to see the downside emerge, we very likely do see that begin today, and Bitcoin probably trades below 64,000 bucks today. And like I said, just personally, not statistically speaking, but personally, I am biased towards a bit of a drop down first before anything else. But of course, on the other side, if Bitcoin were to trade 2.5% to the upside, it would basically retest yesterday's high. And that'd actually be a really good indication that Bitcoin probably is going to dig in here above the $64,000 region and turn around, and you actually will see the upside of that play out. So I really do expect that we're going to get major clarity on this situation over here. And basically from this setup, we have targets within a time frame. And then also, well, we should have like a major bias on that basically by today. But for right now, you know, certainly more downside angled. Anyways, moving onwards from there, and I need to get my notes back on over here. It is, of course, the quad witching date as well. The quad witching date is today. It is the third Friday of this month of June. And that does mean that there is a major expiration going on. You have index options, you have futures options, you have index futures options, and then something else as well. I mean, there's 4 of them. It's a big one, and you typically do see major price action kind of pivoted around this particular date, as it only happens, you know, 4 times a year. And what I've done on this chart is just marked off all of the prior June quad witching dates in Bitcoin's history. You can see very, very clearly that this did mark off major highs and major lows nearly every time. In fact, if I were to put it into numbers, it did it every time except for three of the 14 times. It did mark off like a major high or a major low. Now, of course, it's kind of a little bit more of a major high right here than anything. But it's a long day left to go, of course. And from that pivot, the study that I've done is I've bifurcated the positive and negative returns after that, which actually are very, very similar to each other, especially if you omit outliers at basically 39% of a move from that number within about you know, close to 2 months, a little bit closer to 2 months, but slightly less than 2 months. So, you know, if we do see this work as a pivot yet again, we're either looking probably around 90,000. Or we're looking perhaps as low as 41,000, you know, or 40,000. So this is likely a big one. Then again, what if it's just sideways? Could very well be. Anyways, okay, so we've gone through that. Need to take off my damn Discord over here so it shuts the fuck up. And what else? Yeah, we saw the meta signals target one player yesterday, but that's already long gone at this point. I guess lastly, we could just kind of check in on stochastic momentum here. We do see, let's go over here to CME. We do see that the daily is still positioned to the downside. Yes, it is getting really, really critical here, but it is still healthily to the downside as long as Bitcoin's closing below 65,000 bucks. So again, early indication if Bitcoin is going to actually dig in here and trade to the upside, maybe even making new all-time highs in early July, is if Bitcoin does close today above 65,000 bucks. 2-day time frame is going to also be pretty heavily downside, to be fair. Like really fucking heavily downside right there. As long as Bitcoin's below 71,400, we do see a nice trend line regression coming in from these I already have it in there, from these last few lows. So probably does meet this trend line, which is going to take at least another couple closures, I expect. So, risk into next week still to the downside is kind of what I would say. But yeah, and then you extrapolate that to the 3-day, and it's also down. With the 5-day also down, weekly also down. That is why I do have to be biased here towards this setup failing. But again, even with a failure, we do get probabilities as far as where price action will be around that end date as well. So I do think that that's rather important, kind of fitting all the puzzle pieces together here. So going back into it and finishing this one off, I'd even really say, like, looking at the price statistics, that's probably going to be it. If you see Bitcoin close below this week's lows, expect further downside. If you see Bitcoin close below 65,000 bucks, expect downside. Like, expect at least 61 to 62,000 bucks, and that's probably a good place for another try for a higher low. And of course, if Bitcoin does play at the upside of it, back above or even near yesterday's high, then this would start to look like the next higher low right here. I think, though, it is a little bit less likely. But I suppose we'll find out later today, assuming that Bitcoin doesn't just have another sort of doji dildo-ish close with nothing really going on by end of day here. So that is the message of the day. I want to also have a message that the crypto school signups are less than a week away now. I think it's about 6 days. Next Thursday is the first big event. So we'll be starting that. Of course, there is a link in the description below. Although this one is I don't know. I must need to like clear my cache or something. It's all fucked up. It's all shitty right now. But I can assure you that it is indeed there. It probably should work better for you. I think mine's just like I said, I probably need to clear my cache or something. But yeah, you can sign up. It's completely free to sign up. You do need an exchange account, but that's your own exchange account. That's your money. That's all you. It has nothing to do with me. So if you need any help with that, check out the Crypto Banter, or sorry, not Crypto Banter, but Crypto School Discord. They will assist you through there. Please refrain from emailing Elsa because she's not involved in this at all, and I'm not involved with anything in the back end anyway. So it's like we can't even help, and so that would be the best venue to get help right there. This is the first cohort. We're not sure how many we're going to do of these, just because, well, we don't know if it's going to be like, we don't know how successful it's going to be. So if you are on the edge, consider it. Like I said, only requires an exchange account, and from there you can just jump in and participate if you so desire. Anyways, that's going to do it for me. It's a nice little Friday here. It's the summer solstice. It's midsummer for us in Finland, and I just want to be wishing you the best as always. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow.